If you want to get a little more action out of a plastic worm than you do with a regular slip sinker Texas rig, what rig should you use? Whoa! That's a beauty. Good morning, guys and girls. September 16. We're going to be looking at the book of Romans 9:24. Romans 9:24. About 6 or 7 words. They're great ones, though. They're great ones. Every word in the Word of God is a great word, isn't it? Romans 9:24 says, we are those people whom God has called. We are those people whom God called. My goodness. We are those people. Believers, Christians. We are those people who God called. Many of the tournament guys call local tournament fishermen to learn about lakes in which they're not familiar. Some tournaments, you've got a cutoff period of time. You're only allowed to talk to somebody like maybe a couple weeks ahead of time or 3 weeks ahead of time. Some tournaments, they even have a rule where once they announce the tournament schedule, you're not allowed to talk to anybody about that lake. But when it is legal, most locals are really excited when a big name pro calls them for help. Whoa, somebody like Roland Martin calls. Somebody, like Hank Parker calls. Whoa, call some local guy to ask him about the lake and what's happening on the lake. If you're looking for something to really get excited about, if you're looking for something to really, really get excited about, think about who called you to be a Christian. Who called you to be a believer? No one less than the God who created the world, the God who chose you to be one of His. If you get a feeling that your life is falling apart, you get the feeling that nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, just remember whose family you belong to. You're royalty. You're royalty. You belong in the family of God. Would you get excited, fishermen? Would you get excited if Roland Martin, Larry Nixon, Woo Daves called and asked you for tell them something about a lake? This is infinitely better. Start jumping for joy. Yeah, start jumping for joy. God Himself has called you. When somebody treats you bad, when you get upset because somebody did you wrong, and really with just a little effort, could have made your day a whole lot better. But maybe they were ugly to you. Maybe they didn't let you get your way in the situation. Maybe they just said something that really ticked you off. And you kind of blew your cool, you lost it. That happens to me. Fortunately, not very often, not nearly as often as it used to do. But it does happen. It does happen when things just are totally unfair. And just a little bit of kindness, just a little bit of love could turn an unfair situation into a fairly decent situation. But an individual decided not to show you that love, not to show you that little courtesy, and you just fell apart because of it. It's happened to me. I think it's happened to all of us. And it robs us of our joy. It robs us of the pleasure of that day should be. Sometimes it ruins your day for an hour. Sometimes it ruins it for half a day. Sometimes it ruins your whole day. Some little thing sometimes can just throw you off keel and ruin your whole day. When anything little happens like that, just think who chose you to be a believer. Just think whose family you belong to. And you can just kind of look back and say, man, that person done me wrong, but they don't know who I belong to. And who I belong to makes everything right. Makes everything right. Here's our tip for today. A slider head jig. That's right. A slider head jig will give your worm more action than a slip sinker. Now, some people call those shaky heads. Slider head and shaky head, pretty much basically the exact same thing. And the reason it gives your worm a little bit more action is because you only have a little bit of the worm attached to the shaky head. You don't have a big old hook in there. You just got a little bit of the worm attached to the shaky head, and the hook is usually stuck out with either a weed guard or open hook, and it gives your worm better action. The smaller that you have your hook attached to up to the front of the worm, the more action the rest of the worm's going to have. When you have that Texas rig and you hook way back down here in your worm, that's going to take a little bit of the action away. So you want to get more action? And this is usually done when you're using thinner worms and you're using smaller worms. So if they're smaller and thinner, you need more action at them to get a bite a lot of times. If you want to get more action, go to a shaky head, go to a slider head. Guys and girls, go out there and have a great one today. And remember,